everybody, I'm Kate Cass, and welcome to our edition of Let's Talk About. Today, let's talk about Sonic the Hedgehog. Again, more specifically, Sonic's time in animation. When I decided I wanted to create more Sonic content for the 30th anniversary, I asked you guys what Sonic media you'd like to see me cover over on my Discord. The invite link to which is in the description of this and every video. And the main request was talking about these Sonic animated shows. I guess that makes sense. But doing individual reviews on each of the shows would take a lot of time and dedication that for some of these shows at least, I was not willing to commit. But with the announcement of the next Sonic animated project, Sonic Prime, I came up with a compromise. Today, we're going to look through Sonic's entire history in animation, from TV shows to anime to shorts and more. We won't be going over the animated segments in the video games though, because that's not quite the same thing. Sonic's roles in animation is a good way to get a sense of the different eras of Sonic, and going through these shows one after the other will give us an idea of how they reflect on Sonic's brand at the time, how it's changed, and maybe help us speculate on what we can expect from Sonic Prime next year. So without further ado, let's begin with the first of Sonic's many TV shows. Sonic's first outing in animation was in Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, a cartoon in every sense of the word. Only the first two Sonic games had been released by this point, so outside of the basics of Sonic's universe, with Sonic running around stopping Robotnik's schemes with Tails, who is there now, there wasn't much of a world to work with to mold into a TV show. So this show runs with that loose premise by going absolutely off the wall. Typically, the show would either have someone come to Sonic and Tails asking for help after being terrorized by Robotnik, or having the pair just run into the wannabe tyrant and hijinks ensue, with Sonic getting into Looney Tunes-style antics with Robotnik or his badniks, ranging from the obvious comparisons to the chases and traps of the Roadrunner cartoons, to Sonic donning Bugs Bunny-like disguises to get the advantage over his bumbling foes. This is definitely one of those early 90s cartoons that embraces the zaniness that can be accomplished by being a cartoon. Probably what the show is mostly known for these days is when the tone created some truly bizarre moments, like the introduction of Robotnik's equally evil and mustachioid mother, or that one time Grounder turned his drill into a pumpkin, which was a bit of a meme for a while, or the frequent appearance of Sonic's hormones, which have slowly dissipated over time, or the series finale where Sonic becomes Santa Claus. No, really. It can get pretty off the wall very quickly, and unless you're into cartoons that really embrace the absurdity they can create, which I know can get on some people's nerves, including mine, this show can be a tough watch. But I think something that worked to the show's advantage is that the episodes were 22 minutes long, so in between all the zaniness, they actually had to tell a story, with conflict and stuff. Nothing that was particularly revolutionary, even by Sonic standards, but enough to rein the insanity in to help keep an audience's investment in what's going on each week. While the show is often remembered for its weirder moments, understandably so, there were quite a few firsts with this show too that impacted the franchise going forward. Before there was Metal Sonic, we had Pseudo Sonic introduced here, and this show would start something of a tradition in the Sonic series to follow, where Robotnik would have a pair of badniks as his go-to lackeys. In Adventures, it was Scratch and Grounder, who might be my personal favorite of the bunch. I just find their bickering dynamic and the abundance of confidence in their schemes despite constant failure really charming. I can't quite explain it. This is also where Sonic was given a voice, played iconically by Urkel himself, Jaleel White. These couldn't be two more different characters, but Jaleel White did a surprisingly good job giving Sonic his cool, cheesy confidence while sprinkling in a bit of that sincere, heroic nature. White would go on to play Sonic in every animated show produced by Deke, and would be the Blue Blur's definitive voice until Sonic Adventure came along and gave him an official voice in the games.
Oh yeah! This is happening!
But I can't talk about Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog without mentioning Sonic Says. Like so many other cartoons of its time, Adventures had an after-school special style PSA at the end of every episode, sometimes relating to the story of the episode that preceded it, but more often than not, it was pretty random. They were harmless enough, but it is pretty weird to hear Sonic characters talking about certain subjects, like smoking, and drinking, and most famous of all,
but if someone tries to touch you in a place or in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable, that's no good.
Adventures doesn't really hook me that much as an adult, but when I was a kid, I loved it. I rented compilations of episodes all the time from Blockbuster when I was first getting into the Sonic franchise. Yeah, that shows you how long ago it was. It's off the wall, for sure, but there's enough there to keep general investment without being confusing or alienating. It's definitely left its mark on the franchise, being referenced occasionally to this day and giving Sonic some of his defining characteristics, including his favorite food. For what was essentially the training wheels for Sonic the Hedgehog in animation, it was a decent first ride. But the next one is what really got the fastest thing alive pedaling down the path at full speed.
He's the fastest thing alive!
Famously and strangely, there was another Sonic cartoon running at the exact same time as Adventures, made by the same animation studio. In fact, I was having a bit of trouble figuring out which one technically came first, but I think I got the order right. They couldn't be more different shows, but the way they both ended up is because they were airing at the same time. Let me explain. You see, Sonic the Hedgehog, known these days simply as Sonic SATAM, since it was the one in the pair that aired on Saturday mornings, was meant to be a more lighthearted adventure, similar to how the early issues of the Archie Sonic comics were, which featured most of the same characters. I thought for a long time that the comics inspired the show, but looking through the dates again, it was actually the other way around. Mathematically, the show would have been well into production by the time the comics started being published, only a couple months before this cartoon aired. Anyway, SATAM was meant to be the only Sonic cartoon at the time. However, DiC, the animation studio, wanted to produce a Sonic cartoon for syndication, and that's not what ABC, who ordered Sonic SATAM's production, wanted for the show. So DiC developed Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog to sell into syndication, and SATAM would air exclusively on ABC. Since Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog was more fun, lighthearted, and goofy, SATAM was able to go even darker with its tone and even develop story arcs to help distinguish the two shows. While Adventures took Sonic's loose premise with a silly, no-rules attitude, SATAM took the premise from the first couple of Genesis games, of Robotnik capturing animals to power his robot so he can take over the world, in a dark and dystopian direction, with Robotnik having conquered most of the world by slowly turning the Mobian population into his robot slaves by roboticizing them, only leaving a few resistance groups scattered around the world trying to stop Robotnik's plans of world domination, including the now famous freedom fighters led by the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog. I'd say this is probably the most unique show in terms of its premise and cast, with a very memorable ensemble cast of characters that have left their mark on the franchise to this day. The reliable inventor Rotor, the tough and spirited Bunny Rabbit, who's always been a favorite of mine, the meek yet arrogant Antoine D. Colette, whose levels of bearability vary depending on the episode. Thankfully, he get much more fleshed out in the latter half of the Archie comics, and the instigator of many a shipping war, Sally Acorn. Seriously though, Sally is a great character, methodical and caring while balancing the responsibility of watching over the last remains of a kingdom. SATAM crafted something really special for Sonic with the fragments of lore there were for the franchise at the time, creating a story where the stakes were always high even in later episodes, and sometimes the heroes didn't always win, even embodying a subtle environmental message throughout, which fits pretty well for Sonic the Hedgehog. This is also the most threatening Robotnik has ever been. Like, no contest, this guy actually terrifies me. However, in the only break of the Lackey tradition as of now, instead he has an entire army of robots at his command, and his right-hand stooge, his nephew Snively. Yes, Robotnik has extended family, and the reason for how that's possible is way too long and complicated, and I don't have it in me to go into it here. Watching the show again with the bar raised considerably higher for animated shows lately, I was expecting to lose some of the magic with this one. There are some awkward jokes and bits of dialogue, particularly when it comes to Sonic's 90s cheese that hasn't aged the best. Seriously, if you think Sonic's dialogue is bad nowadays, you have not watched these DiC shows in a while.
Way past cool, huh? How do you like the entrance? You know, the way I come flying in, hit the old Axl Rose pose right on the downbeat.
It's like he's trying to speak to me, I know it!
But I was pleasantly surprised revisiting this. It never really talked down to its audience and always reminded us what was really at stake, able to balance the episodic nature of a Saturday morning cartoon while having a progressing storyline. This show's story was so well thought out that the Archie Sonic comics adopted a lot of plot elements from it, particularly from the highly regarded two-part episode, Blast from the Past, easily the best episodes of the show, which is pretty much point for point the backstory for the Archie Sonic universe universe. Well, pre-Super Genesis Wave anyway. Sonic SATAM proved that Sonic the Hedgehog could tell a serious story while still having fun with it, feeling like this is still the character from the popular video games in a higher stakes situation. It really is a shame the show infamously ended on a cliffhanger. While there has been demand to see that hypothetical season 3 for over 2 decades now, I honestly don't see that ever happening, especially with how much legal trouble there's been around the freedom fighters in the last few years. But in its time, SATAM did a lot for the franchise and is beloved by many. The Sonic the Hedgehog OVA was Sonic's first spin dash into animation in Japan, again outside of a commercial or really cool video game intro. Possibly for the Hedgehog's 5th anniversary, but that might be a coincidence. Released in Japan as a 2-part miniseries, but when it got dubbed into English, they mashed the two together into Sonic the Hedgehog the Movie, a title that I'm sure won't be confusing at all in 20 years or so. Since Sonic CD had just come out, this is a loose retelling of Sonic's first encounter with Metal Sonic. I freely admit I am not that familiar with the story of Sonic CD. Hopefully I'll get to fix that with the Sonic Origins collection coming out, but I'm fairly confident in calling this a loose adaptation, since I'm pretty sure Knuckles wasn't there and Amy is nowhere to be seen, despite CD being her debut game. This one does a pretty great job at capturing Sonic's essence: fast-paced action, surreal and exotic locations, appealing character designs, a lot of attitude, and fighting robots. A lot of robots. Yes, there was quite a bit of Sonic in animation before this, but I feel like this movie is the closest in tone to the games, at least in terms of story and environment. But it doesn't fully escape having those very weird moments that have kind of become memes at this point. Strange bits of dialogue, some weird sexual jokes surrounding Princess Sarah, and that one part where Sonic might have flipped off Metal Robotnik. Sonic's attitude in general is a bit more snippy and dismissive than usual, even at this point where they were still figuring out just how much attitude Sonic should have. It can be a bit off-putting, but most of it is confined to the first third. Once we get to Robotropolis and start facing the danger, Sonic's heroic side is front and center for the rest of the movie. This was also the first animated project to feature Knuckles, and I love him here. He's cool, encouraging, knowledgeable, ready for a fight, not great with words, and he's got an awesome hat for some reason, but everyone loves it.
I wear Stetson now. Stetsons are cool.
This is definitely one of those projects where you can tell how popular Knuckles was at the time. Once he's in this movie, he takes over whatever scene he's in. Like when he says this.
Stop yelling! Who is this?
Who are you?
I'm Knuckles. I'm Sonic's best friend.
Way to throw Tails under the bus there, Knux. The Sonic OVA is certainly weird from the outside looking in, and even on the inside to an extent, but if someone were to tell me that there was a Sonic the Hedgehog animated movie, this is sort of what I'd imagine. Running around fighting robots with some ridiculous shenanigans and snark thrown in, and even a bit of drama. It's weird, but it's very Sonic, especially in an era where there wasn't much in the way of lore or in-depth character types. They weren't trying to reinvent the wheel here. They knew what they were working with and ran with it. No pun intended. But before Sonic games would become more well-defined in terms of story and character, there was one more Sonic show that would take the Blue Blur's loose concept and get really experimental with it.
They made a vow their mother will be found. Sonic Underground!
With both of their Sonic shows over for a few years by this point, before we headed into the new millennium and a new era of Sonic, DiC had one more Sonic the Hedgehog series in them, Sonic Underground, and it might be the most peculiar yet. Okay, so get this. In this series, Sonic is part of a set of triplets who are the children of Mobius's ruler, Queen Alina Hedgehog, who vanishes and separates her children after Robotnik takes over because of a prophecy foretold to her. Once they grow up and reunite, Sonic and his brother and sister, Sonia and Manic, set out on a quest to both find their mother and defeat Robotnik, aided by these special medallions that grant them the power of rock and roll.
There used to be a way to stick it to the man. It was called rock and roll.
I'm not the first to make this observation, but time has been the kindest to Underground, since nowadays it feels very DeviantArty. Original characters that are related to Sonic and share an important connection to him, borrowing elements from other Sonic adaptations, elaborate fantasy-based lore, mainly the whole Chosen One angle where it didn't exist before, and so on. I think the thing that really drives that home is the fact that the poster on my Roku for the show is clearly fan art, not official art. Now, none of that's necessarily a bad thing, it's just a very easy comparison to make. But as easy as it is to poke fun at Sonia and Manic for their names and designs and existing, they certainly have fans and are fine characters in their own right. Sonia is the prim and proper rich girl with a bit of edge, Manic is the streetwise rascal with a heart of gold. Nothing groundbreaking, yeah, but for the purpose of the show, they work just fine. Sonic is Sonic. He's pretty much the same as he's always been in these Deke shows, including having Jaleel White reprise his role one last time, and having him play both Manic and Sonia, which is another thing people poke fun at a lot, but he did a pretty good job. Again, not great, but pretty good. Regarding supporting cast, while Tails is strangely absent from the show, Knuckles had a semi-recurring role, which is pretty cool. Like in the games, he guards Angel Island, and even sets up traps all throughout the island like the ones you would encounter during these levels in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Remember, Knuckles is clever in his own way. There's even an appearance by Aether, Knuckles' great-grandfather from the Archie comics. This was the first, and as of right now, only appearance by a comic book character in one of the TV shows. Even SATAM didn't get to do that. You know, with how much legal trouble there's been with the rights for the comic characters, particularly the Brotherhood of Guardians, I'm surprised they're still able to release these episodes, frankly. Anyway, Robotnik is also back to having his obligatory pair of lackeys, and they are perhaps the least memorable pair yet, Sleet and Dingo. They just never really left an impression on me, outside of the fact that one is played by Maurice LaMarche.
Well, once in a while you do come up with something, don't you?
In terms of tone, Sonic Underground is sort of a combination of the previous two Deke Sonic shows, having a serious overarching story with cheesier jokes and sillier episodic plots. Its world shares similarities to Sonic SATAM, almost as if it's an alternate universe, but each episode tends to be more self-contained while alluding to a greater goal. Specifically, Robotnik's inevitable downfall as foretold by this prophecy, that for some reason the Oracle who predicted it told Robotnik about as well. Why? He doesn't exactly have the ability to convey the nuance that knowing about his inevitable defeat would provide. He's not Lord Shen. Perhaps the biggest thing that makes Sonic Underground different from every other Sonic show is that, similar to Crazy Ex-Girlfriend or Phineas and Ferb, every episode came with at least one song, to varying levels of quality. Which is weird, because music is one of the most consistently excellent things about the Sonic franchise. You'd think this would be a match made in heaven. But while there are some solid and catchy tunes in these 40 episodes, most of them are pretty forgettable. Well, at least it had a rocking theme song. I don't want this to come across like I'm being too harsh on Sonic Underground. It's just not a show that ever really got me invested in it, even as a kid. I'm pretty sure it's the show I watched the least episodes of for this video. It was just a little too out there, even by Sonic standards, and looking back on it, I think it was trying to be too much at once. Because of that, what potential it had kinda gets a little lost. Especially considering that the story arc of the series has no conclusion. Sonic and his siblings never get close to defeating Robotnik or reuniting with their mother. I know SATAM is known for ending on a massive cliffhanger, but that was in the last 20 seconds. Remove that, and SATAM could have ended on a pretty satisfying note. Not so for Sonic Underground. I still would like to know where this was all going to go and if the journey was worth it. Unfortunately, we'll likely never know for sure. Deke was commissioned to make this show to promote the upcoming game on the Dreamcast, Sonic Adventure, which ironically was something of a soft reboot for Sonic, and thus the classic era that included Sonic Underground was quickly becoming old news. But viewers wouldn't have to wait long to see Sonic on their television screens again, in a fresh new package for this brand new era.
Gotta go faster, Sonic X!
Straight off the success of the two Sonic Adventure games, which revitalized the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise after something of a slump, Sega of Japan finally decided to create a show produced in Sonic's homeland of Japan, in what kids these days call an anime. I don't think it's biased to say that Sonic X is far and away the most popular of the Sonic shows. Best is perhaps debatable, but most popular, no contest, it was this one. With easily the largest engagement in terms of transformative fandom, for better or for worse.
We like waffles, yeah we like waffles. Do you like pancakes? Yeah we like pancakes.
And influencing the series series for years to come, such as the localized voice cast taking over voicing the main games for several years afterwards. In this anime, Sonic and the gang get whisked away from their world by chaos control into basically our world, landing in Station Square where the first adventure game takes place. Oh my god guys, the Two Worlds theory is canon! Honestly, if the games had explained it the way Sonic X did, which even then wasn't much, I think that random little bit of lore would have been a lot easier to swallow. Sonic X even addressed the whole Eggman blew up half the moon thing, and how to fix it. This show really was doing Sega's work for them. So yeah, it's one of those, oh, we're in a strange new world and we have to blend in while we're trying to get back home kind of premises. And I think this anime came out right before that premise got tiring. There are clunky episodes, especially ones in the first season that rely way too much on the wacky hijinks. But sometimes the hijinks are a part of the fun. Even if it could take itself seriously, Sonic is a silly franchise. It always has been. So when I see an episode where Eggman challenges Sonic and the gang to a baseball game to decide who gets a Chaos Emerald, I just sit there and go, okay, that seems legit. This was also the time where Sonic's supporting cast was expanding and just kept growing until it got a little out of hand, though I do love 95% of them. Because of that, this is the show where a lot of popular Sonic characters made their animation debut. Amy, Rouge, the Chaotix, Cream and Cheese, and of course, Shadow, whose time on the show we talked about a while ago. And it was really exciting to have such a large cast of characters from the games as part of a show. Even characters who had been on TV before, like Tails, Knuckles, and the mad scientist formerly known as Robotnik, Dr. Eggman, feel much more true to their game counterparts than previous shows. But don't worry, even with the name change, Eggman still has his obligatory pair of lackeys, Deco and Boko, and also Bokun. They're alright. As far as the star goes, this is probably my favorite characterization for Sonic in animation. He's cocky, standoffish, and can be kind of a smartass, but he's also brave, considerate, and will go to the ends of the earth to make others happy, sometimes literally. One of the sweetest episodes in the series is when Sonic meets a girl in a wheelchair and immediately offers to take her to a secluded field of flowers she's always wanted to see over meeting the president. That right there, kids, that's Sonic. The adventure era brought with it more story-driven games with clearer character personalities and motivation, so Sonic X is very much influenced by that shift. Heck, the storylines for Season 2 are mostly direct adaptations of adventure era games, with the anime exclusive characters incorporated into the storylines rather well in my opinion. Most of the time just tagging along while not getting in the way too much, but occasionally being incorporated in ways that elevates the original material. But what really made Sonic X stand out, I think, is that it knew when to take itself seriously. There were continuing storylines, sincere connections between characters, powerful sacrifices, and even character deaths, which at the time wasn't a thing that happened much outside of the Archie comics. This era in the Sonic franchise was really pushing the boundaries for the kind of stories they could tell in this universe, with higher stakes and more fleshed out characters, and Sonic X really embodies that, especially once Season 3 came along. The conflict between Sonic and the team and the evil Metarex has still produced some of the most shocking and devastating moments in the entire franchise. Yeah, a lot of the more daring moments in the series got sanded down quite a bit with the English dub by 4Kids, and I know that bothers a lot of people, which I understand, but to me, enough of its core strengths survived the localization to make this one of the most memorable Sonic-related projects I've ever seen. Sega and Sonic Team clearly knew how popular it was since they rode the Sonic X brand for a long time. There would not be another Sonic cartoon for 8 years after Sonic X concluded, but we did have a couple things to hold us over in the meantime. Now we're getting into some one-off appearances. This short, Night of the Werehog, was the first 3D animated adventure for Sonic outside of games or ads. And it was animated by the same team who had been animating the CGI cutscenes for Sonic the Hedgehog games since Sonic Riders, Marza Animation. Marza is legendary in the Sonic fanbase. Their work created some of the most epic-looking moments in the franchise. Their team has a hand in Sonic's 3D adventures to this day. The premise for the short is actually pretty cute. Sonic and his his companion for this adventure, Chip, wander into a haunted house on a dark and stormy night, which is, naturally, haunted. Two of the ghosts inside try to scare whoever stumbles across their home to take pictures of their frightened intruders to amuse the girl ghost in charge. But when they set out to scare Sonic to please her, they don't count on this little hedgehog becoming something even scarier. Yeah, this short was released right alongside the notorious Sonic Unleashed, the game where Sonic gets a sudden case of lycanthropy. Thankfully, people seem to be much more fair towards the Werehog idea these days. Yes, it's weird, but to me, it worked. Love or hate the game, people seem much more open to the Werehog in this short. Marza really flexed their comedic muscles here, and the results speak for themselves. For a short with no dialogue, only epic Mickey-style grunts and noises, it's a very expressive short. The facial expressions are highly, well, expressive. The movements apply a good amount of squash and stretch that lends to the comedic timing very well, while not looking off-putting, and the camera work and even the couple of action scenes we get are dynamic and well constructed. It's gothic atmosphere with wacky antics, and it's a ton of fun. Most of the best talent Sonic Team had at the time was behind this short, and it really stands out because of that. I could have watched a whole show of Sonic and Chip's globe-trotting shenanigans if they were as good as this was. Looking back on it, Night of the Werehog feels like a precursor for the more recent Sonic Online shorts that we'll talk about later. Fun yet disposable to the casual fan, but really sticks in the minds of those who notice all the love and care put into them. But now, we get to Sonic's debut on the big screen.
Because if you die outside your own game, you don't regenerate. Ever. Game over.
What big screen debut did you think I meant? This might be a weird one to include, but I just couldn't help it. When Disney's Wreck-It Ralph was being promoted in 2012, it was quickly becoming known as Who Framed Roger Rabbit for video games. A title that might not hold up when comparing the film's stories, but it definitely fits when it comes to the various cameos from iconic and obscure video game characters littered throughout the movie. Sonic and Eggman get a couple of cameos in Wreck-It Ralph, and the sequel, Ralph Breaks the Internet. I find it particularly amusing that Sonic's most notable moments in both movies involve giving crucial exposition for the plot of both films, so there's no way he could be cut. That was smart. I especially love this background detail when Sonic gets hit at one point. That's adorable. The only other notable thing about these cameos is that this was the first time Sonic's current voice actor, Roger Craig Smith, played Sonic outside of one of the games, but it would by no means be the last. In fact, Smith might currently hold the record for voicing the Blue Blur in the most projects, including Sonic's next big TV show. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Yeah, I get that Sonic Boom has its fans, and I'm glad they enjoy it, but honestly, it just didn't gel with me. But, before we get into that, context. It's weird to think now, but the Sonic Boom reboot was supposed to be a really big deal at the time. All new games, complete, sort of, redesigns for the main characters. Sonic Boom action figures, Sonic Boom plushies, Sonic Boom comic books, Sonic Boom t-shirts, Sonic Boom the Flamethrower.
That kids love this one.
And of course, this cartoon. In fact, as far as I can tell, this TV show and the first two Boom games were put into development around the same time so they could be released simultaneously, which sounded pretty exciting. Do you know how many parts of these shows fans would have loved to see in the video games? Plus, this was the first fully 3D animated show for Sonic and the Gang. This seemed like it would be innovative in many ways. Sega invested a lot into this reboot, and it clearly paid off. Look, I don't like Sonic Boom. I don't think it was a good alternate universe. But I am still going to be fair and concise on my feelings with the TV show, since I do think it was the best thing to come out of the Boom era, even if I still don't think it's very good. The general vibe is much more casual and situational. While there are some action scenes in the show, at least one per episode, most of the time characters wander around their town and get into domestic antics among themselves or the other villagers. This approach to a Sonic show is definitely different. Not out of nowhere though, as the previous show had its fair share of silly domestic antics, but the difference there was that Sonic X was divided between those antics and heavy, world-ending conflict. One episode might see the Chaotix playing matchmaker, but the next could see Sonic getting corrupted by anger and artificial Chaos Emeralds in a moment that still scars fans to this day. Both are great, but neither is the entire focus. They balance each other out. And it's not like the wacky nonsense of Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog either, because it's not fantastical enough. It feels too grounded, and that's a weird thing to say about a Sonic the Hedgehog story. Sonic Boom feels more like a sitcom, and that's not in and of itself a problem, unlike other fans of genre-heavy media I know. I actually really like sitcoms, but the approach Sonic Boom takes just never really worked for me. Because most episodes either have too much stuff going on, or not enough. The episodes I've seen will either have a plot not strong enough to hold my attention, or have a strong start, but veer off into a completely different direction. And if these were the main series characters, they might be able to get away with that, but oh man, Boom really did these characters dirty. Well, okay, credit where it's due, Eggman is the funniest he's been in years, taking on a more casual antagonistic role similar to Dr. Doofenshmirtz that really suits him. And the way they portray his rivalry with Sonic delivers some of the show's best moments. Plus, he's still got his pair of lackeys. This time we have Orbot and Cubot, who had been regulars in the Sonic games for a while by this point. But Sonic himself can be a coin toss between understandably arrogant and confident or full-on douche. I was never really endeared to Styx, though I know she has fans. Knuckles is a total lost cause, taking the misconception about his character that he's stupid and going completely off the deep end. And then there was...
Your shoddy craftsmanship brings shame on all hedgehogs.
Nope. I swore I wasn't talking about this version ever again, and I am sticking to that. Now that said, Sonic Boom is not without merit. There are some jokes that have made me laugh out loud, especially when they get really meta.
Capable is my middle name.
I thought your middle name was The.
But the thing that shines the brightest in this series to me is the voice cast. The material may be hit or miss, but this show really displays the comedic talent among this Sonic cast. I'm telling you, most of the times I laugh at the show wasn't necessarily from the writing, but the delivery of the joke. Able to elevate meh humor into something amusing, and that is no small feat. The best example of this is my personal favorite episode, The Meteor. It's your classic body swap story, but unlike most cartoons, they don't swap the voice actors. So you have Roger Craig Smith playing the maniacal Eggman and Mike Pollock as the snarky Sonic, and it's awesome. You know that trend so many of us get frustrated with where they take a cool, well-written, serialized show and then give it a silly, nonsensical reboot? I'm surprised this show isn't in that conversation more, because that's honestly what it felt like. I know it's not really fair, but if people can say things like that about Adventures and SATAM, I can apply it here. It doesn't even have an awesome theme song. That's like the one thing all Sonic shows consistently do well. I can't complain too much though, since the Sonic Boom brand failed so spectacularly, it's pretty much dead at this point. I sympathize with those who like the show and miss it, because it just kind of unceremoniously stopped. It definitely has its fans, and I don't want my distaste to take that away from any of them. This show did have good points. I found a couple of solid episodes that I would gladly watch again. If I was a kid, I probably would have been interested enough to watch it if nothing else was on, but right now, outside of a few isolated moments, it's easily my least favorite Sonic show of the batch, representing an era that I'm glad is long over. Alright, one more weird cameo, and this might be the most random one yet. Sonic and Tails had a guest appearance on the Cartoon Network show OKKO Let's Be Heroes, in an episode in Season 3 appropriately titled Let's Meet Sonic.
Short, sweet, and to the point.
I didn't watch OKKO, so I can't really tell you if this is a good idea for a crossover. I did look into the basic premise, but for the purpose of this video, it's really not worth elaborating on the show itself. I'll let people who are more invested in it than me handle that. But I did check out this episode out of morbid curiosity, and it's pretty fun. The story is that Sonic is lured to this world by KO's arch enemy, I think. I don't really know these characters. And KO recruits the Blue Blur and Tails to help save his friends, coworkers? I still don't know who these people are. What I do know is that the writers of the show clearly love Sonic the Hedgehog. This is an adventure packed with references from all areas of Sonic's history, though there seems to be a particular fondness towards the Sonic OVA. I'm not going to go over all of them, but some of my favorites included the bad guy hench robot doing a laugh just like Scratch from Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, the Sonic Says section at the end, and the main villain being able to trick Knuckles into giving him the Master Emerald off-screen. Classic. This is a big deal in the show itself, too. In KO's world, Sonic is viewed as something of a celebrity, being an admired and respected idol in the video game universe. Wow, this must be an alternate reality. KO is an especially big admirer of his, ecstatic when Sonic tries to teach him some of his moves, even though he doesn't get the hang of it right away. But the best part of this episode for me was that Tails is the one to help KO figure out how to pull off the spin dash, which is not only a nice way to show that sometimes Tails is able to achieve things Sonic isn't, which is what makes them such a great team, and that Tails will still do the right thing even without the power and glory Sonic has, but a cute nod to the fact that Sonic didn't learn the spin dash until Sonic the Hedgehog 2, where Tails debuted. So it's a long-held headcanon among fans that Tails taught him how to do one of his signature moves. Let's Meet Sonic was certainly a fun detour in Sonic's time in animation. It's funny, loving, and way more well animated than I expected, particularly in this chase/fight scene between Sonic and a roboticized KO. It's ridiculous how smooth it is. It's a good outing to highlight in a video like this, since it's more or less a celebration of a lot of the great Sonic adventures we've already talked about. This crossover didn't quite convince me to invest in checking out OKKO, but it's a pretty fun episode even without prior knowledge of the show. If you're a Sonic fan, it's definitely worth the 12 minutes of your time. Sonic's most recent animated projects have been in online shorts made for the Sonic the Hedgehog official YouTube channel. These are typically a way to promote the latest games, like Sonic Mania, Team Sonic Racing, and most recently, Sonic Colors Ultimate. Similarly to Night of the Werehog, these take a classic approach with cartoon shorts, with simple stories and no dialogue. Only the very expressive animation to tell their story, except for Rise of the Wisp, which did have voice acting. I'm honestly surprised they didn't make things like this with Sonic way sooner, especially for the first 8 or so years of existence, where in the games, he didn't really have a voice. These shorts have been very well received, with easily digestible adventures with appealing animation and design work. The characters really pop off the screen with vibrant and expressive movements, where you can get a really good sense of the characters and their personalities without having to have really any prior knowledge of the Sonic cast. Team Sonic Racing Overdrive does a great job at highlighting specific character traits and the history surrounding them. I think if the Wisps had as much personality as they do in Rise of the Wisp, people wouldn't mind how often they're forcefully included in other games, and Mania Adventures in particular does an equally exceptional job at this. With stuff like Knuckles being naive, hot-headed, and dedicated, and Mighty being very protective of Ray as sort of a big brother. Side note, can we just take a minute to appreciate that Mighty got something of a comeback thanks to Mania? You can get Mighty the Armadillo action figures now. Official ones. Anyway, part of what likely makes these shorts so distinct is that they are directed and partially animated by fandom darling Tyson Hess. Hess's time with the Sonic franchise has been pretty short in the grand scheme of things, but he's quickly made a name for himself. Usually you can point out Hess's style from a mile away, mostly because it's a very appealing style. He really gets Sonic, for lack of a better phrase, and it comes across in every project he's been involved with. It exudes the over-the-top fun and coolness that's the heart of this franchise. At the end of the day, Sonic should be fun, and while these shorts are mostly shameless plugs for the video games, they are definitely fun. Binging them is an absolute treat if you're a Sonic fan. Oh, by the way, one more thing. They made a Chow's in Space short. Yeah, that fake movie with posters displayed everywhere in SA2, it's real now. It's like 3 minutes long and technically a dream, but still, it's glorious and I can't believe no one told me this existed. And as of right now, that's it. Like I said, these shorts are Sonic's most recent appearance in animation to date. There hasn't been a Sonic TV show since Sonic Boom went off the air until it was announced at the end of last year, possibly prematurely, that a new Sonic the Hedgehog show was in development for Netflix, Sonic Prime. So looking into Sonic's past in animation, how do we go about speculating about Sonic Prime? Well, a big part of Sonic's time in animated shows and shorts and such has been reflective of that particular era of Sonic, from straightforward yet well-defined line to loose and experimental, from ambitious to simple to straight up just being a commercial. A well-made commercial, but still. I've said before that Sonic can be divided into very clearly defined eras in terms of the direction the franchise takes. To the point that if a group of people say they are Sonic fans, they can be talking about wildly different things. So where does that leave Sonic Prime? Well, it's hard to say. I know that's kind of a cop-out after coming this far with this discussion, but it's true. The thing is, we don't know what the future of Sonic the Hedgehog is going to look like. Like many of its predecessors, it's very likely Sonic Prime will be released in conjecture with promoting the next big Sonic game. A game that, at the time of this recording, we know very little about. Not even a title. Well, not officially anyway. What we do have is this quote from Takashi Iizuka, the current creative officer for the Sonic video games. Sonic Adventure laid the foundation for 20 years of Sonic titles after its release, so in the same way, I really hope that this new title releasing in 2022 lays the foundation for the following future Sonic titles. Now that could be hyperbole to sell the game, but right now it's all we have to go on. If this is the case and next year's Sonic game is meant to usher in yet another new era, it means that Sonic Prime could reflect that. We know that this show will involve multiverse adventures of some kind, since multiverses are kind of in now, and this concept art that was leaked a couple months ago gives us a better idea of what that means. I'm personally really looking forward to it. Much like Sonic X and Sonic Boom, this show could be a pitch for the next generation of Sonic, and from what we've seen so far, it's looking pretty good. If this video does well, I'll definitely review it, you can count on that. But there's one thing that I hope Sonic Prime has above all else, and that's a satisfying finale. Yeah, it might be weird to hope for a good conclusion before the show even begins, but you might have noticed that Sonic cartoons kind of have a track record for having lackluster or unsatisfying conclusions. Even the shows that get proper finales tend to have a lot of loose ends, in a tradition that has gotten increasingly frustrating over the years. You know it's bad when the most solid series finale of the bunch is when Sonic became Santa Claus. So wherever Sonic Prime winds up going with the blue blur, just make it to the finish line and make it worthwhile. That's all I ask. So, to conclude this long look back, is there a really great, solid, accessible Sonic animated project out there? No. But there are definitely creative and ambitious ones, plus a good amount of variety, so you'll likely find something you like in this strange haystack. Obviously, my thoughts will likely differ from yours, but because people ask, for my money, Sonic X and the current online shorts are probably the closest to capturing Sonic the Hedgehog's spirit in animation that you're gonna find. But feel free to let me know what your favorite Sonic animated projects are in the comments, and more importantly, why. I'm very curious about the whats and whys in this case, and even if there are any that I missed. I was pretty thorough though, so that might be a stretch.
I don't say this often, but not so fast! Aren't you forgetting something? Something important?
Oh, I didn't forget you. How could I? However, you are gonna need a video all your own. Thanks for watching, everyone. Definitely let me know what you think of these shows in the comments below. That's why this series is called Let's Talk About. Special thanks to Sebastian Canino for playing Sonic the Hedgehog again. Check out his content over on his channel, Cinemageddon Reviews. I want to give a very special thanks to my patrons who help support my content, including David L. Sproul, Sebastian Canino of Cinemageddon Reviews, Chelsea Crandall, Hawk Hero, Crowless, and Jinx Productions. If you'd like to join these fine people in supporting my content while getting cool exclusive perks, you can check out my Patreon page at the link in the description, as well as my other social media if you'd like to check out any of those. Thank you so much again for watching, and I will see you guys next time.